Something happened to you recently that has never, not once in the entire recorded history of spiritual timelines, been witnessed at this level of frequency, in this dimension, in this era of human consciousness. And before you scroll past this, before you dismiss what I'm about to tell you, I need you to understand that you are guided here, not by the algorithm, not by chance, by something far older than either of those things. What occurred inside you in that moment when everything around you was designed to break you defied every calculation that both dark and divine forces had prepared for. You didn't react. You didn't collapse. You didn't give them what they were waiting for. And that single act of controlled stillness sent a shockwave through layers of reality that most humans will never even know exist. The beings monitoring your frequency paused. The architects of your test looked at each other in silence. Because in 10,000 simulations, in every projected outcome they had mapped across your soul's timeline, not one of them predicted this. Not one of them saw you choosing peace over proof, silence over spectacle, power over performance. What you did wasn't human in the ordinary sense. It was ancient. It was trained. It was the signature of a soul that has walked through fire in lifetimes before this one, and came back not bitter, but sharper, not broken, but more precise. The calm you displayed wasn't accidental. It wasn't you suppressing something. It was you becoming something, and the universe registered it the moment it happened. Frequencies shifted. Doors that were sealed for years began to loosen, and the person standing across from you, the one who expected your fire, felt something they were completely unprepared for. They felt your silence land like a verdict. Now let me place this inside the framework of what is spiritually unprecedented, because what happened to you doesn't just matter on a personal level, it matters on a cosmic one. Throughout the entire recorded arc of spiritual history, across every tradition, every scripture, every ancient text that has survived the erasure of time, the consistent expectation placed on powerful souls has always been expression. Warriors were supposed to fight. Prophets were supposed to speak in thunder. Chosen vessels were supposed to demonstrate their power through visible, unmistakable force. The spiritual architecture of this world was built around a single assumption, that power announces itself, that greatness cannot contain itself, that when a soul of your magnitude is provoked, the response will be so overwhelming, so undeniable, that everyone in the vicinity will know immediately who they are dealing with. Every test ever designed for souls at your tier was calibrated around that assumption. The opposition built their entire strategy around triggering your expression. They needed you loud. They needed you reactive. They needed you to become the version of yourself that could be labeled, dismissed, discredited, or contained. Because a powerful soul in reaction is a powerful soul they can manage. But a powerful soul in stillness? That has almost never happened before at this level. In the ancient scrolls, they don't show you the warrior screaming on the battlefield as the miracle. They show you the moment before the scream that never came. The breath that was held, the eyes that stayed level, the jaw that didn't clench. That is the moment the heavens marked as holy. And you just live that moment, in real time, in this lifetime, which means everything the cosmos has been building toward in your specific soul has journey just crossed a threshold that changes the entire trajectory of what comes next for you. And here is where it becomes deeply personal, because this wasn't a random spiritual event that happened to you the way weather happens to a stranger. This was directly connected to a decision you made, a very specific moral decision, in a moment when the easier path was completely available to you. You could have reacted. Every nerve in your body was primed for it. Every social script you had ever been handed told you that the situation called for defense, for confrontation, for making sure the other person knew they had crossed a line. The world you live in rewards noise. It applauds the sharp comeback. It celebrates the person who didn't let someone get away with it. And yet, in that exact moment, something deeper inside, you overrode all of that programming. It wasn't weakness. It wasn't fear. It wasn't you shrinking. It was a sovereign choice made from a place inside you that most people never even access. You chose dignity over dominance. You chose clarity over chaos. You chose to let your energy speak instead of your words. And that choice, that one quiet, invisible, unwitnessed moral decision, is the exact event that the cosmos had been waiting centuries to record from your soul. Because your soul has been tested before, in other forms, in other lifetimes. And there were moments it almost got there, but the provocation was too sharp, the wound too fresh, the humanity too loud. But this time, in this body, in this season of your life, after everything you have already survived, you finally held it. You finally chose the higher frequency, not because someone told you to, but because something ancient inside you remembered that this was always the way. What you need to understand now is that you have not been living your life unobserved. And I don't mean that in a way that should frighten you. I mean it in a way that should finally explain why so much of your life has felt like it carried unusual weight. Why your decisions seem to echo louder than other people's. Why the consequences of your choices arrived faster and hit deeper. Why the people sent to test you were never ordinary, and why the moments of pressure you faced were never proportionate to where you were supposed to be in life. You were being monitored, not casually, not incidentally, with intention and precision. Both sides of the spiritual spectrum had an active file on your frequency. The dark forces needed to know if you could be broken, redirected, or recruited through your own pain. They studied your triggers. They mapped your wounds. They sent people specifically designed to press on the places inside you that hadn't fully healed, because a soul operating from an open wound is a soul that can be manipulated. But simultaneously, the divine forces, the architects of your highest timeline, were watching with something closer to anticipation. They weren't waiting for you to be perfect. They were waiting for you to be sovereign. They were watching for the moment your choices stopped being reactions and started being declarations. Every time you walked away from something that deserved your rage and gave it your peace instead, a record was updated. Every time you protected your integrity in a room where no one would have known if you didn't, a frequency was logged. Every time you chose the harder, quieter, more invisible form of power, they marked it. And they kept watching, because they knew what you were becoming before you did. Let me walk you through some of what they witnessed, because these weren't isolated moments. They were a pattern, and patterns at your level of soul development are what constitute a spiritual portfolio. There was a time when someone took credit for something you built entirely on your own. You watched it happen. You had every receipt, every timestamp, every piece of evidence needed to expose it publicly and reclaim what was yours. The humiliation was real. The injustice was undeniable. And yet, you made a choice that confused everyone around you. You stayed silent, not from defeat, but from a knowing that your name would be attached to your work in a way that needed no announcement. Then there was the relationship, the person who walked out of your life in a way that was designed to devastate you, who expected you to chase, to plead, to collapse into the version of yourself that needed them to stay. Instead, you closed the door quietly, not coldly, not with performance, with a grief that was real and a dignity that was realer. There was the workplace situation, the betrayal inside a circle you thought was safe, the financial pressure that could have justified cutting every ethical corner available to you. In each of these moments, the test was the same, even though the costume changed. Can this soul be destabilized? Can this soul be cheapened? Can this soul be reduced? And in each of these moments, your answer was delivered not in words, but in posture, not in proclamations, but in choices made in private, when the only witness was the version of yourself you were in the process of becoming. That pattern, accumulated across those moments, is what built the case that is now being presented at the highest levels of spiritual governance on your behalf. When a soul accumulates a portfolio like yours, it doesn't go unclassified. In the architecture of spiritual reality, there are beings whose entire function is discernment, the precise identification and categorization of souls based on their demonstrated frequency under pressure. These are not beings who are impressed easily. They have observed billions of human souls across thousands of years of Earth's spiritual history. They have seen courage. They have seen sacrifice. They have seen devotion and discipline and extraordinary acts of love. But the classification they reserve for souls like you is rare enough that it carries its own designation, one that doesn't translate perfectly into human language. But the closest rendering would be something like a stabilizer of fields, a being whose composure under chaos doesn't just protect themselves, but restructures the energetic environment around them. When these beings reviewed your file, specifically the moment of your calm, controlled response, they didn't just note it, they elevated it. They moved your soul's record from the category of developing vessel into a category that carries both authority and responsibility in equal measure. The word dangerous in their language doesn't mean threatening. It means consequential. It means that what you do and how you carry yourself has effects that extend far beyond what is visible in the physical dimension. A soul classified as dangerous in this sense is one whose stillness can silence a room that needed silencing, whose presence can disrupt a pattern that was generational, whose single composed response can rewrite a script that dozens of people around them were unconsciously following. That is what they saw in you. That is the classification they assigned. And that classification comes with implications that are already beginning to manifest in your physical reality, whether you are aware of them yet or not. There is a moment I need you to sit with, the actual moment of your composure, the precise second when you chose stillness over reaction, because that moment was not witnessed only by the people in the room. In the traditions that understood the structure of divine attention, there has always been a teaching that certain human acts pierce through the membrane between the visible and invisible world and draw the gaze of the highest observers. Most humans go entire lifetimes without producing a single moment that rises to that threshold. You produced one recently, and what I am telling you is that it was witnessed, not metaphorically, not poetically. In whatever framework your soul recognizes as ultimate reality, whether you call it God, Source, the Most High, the infinite intelligence that architects all of existence, that intelligence turned its attention fully toward you in that moment. And it wasn't alone in that attention. There are beings in the spiritual hierarchy described across nearly every ancient tradition, called archangels, celestial generals, watchers, divine witnesses, whose function includes bearing record of the moments in human history that alter the trajectory of souls. They were present. They observed the full sequence, the provocation, the internal war, the surrender of the reactive self, the rising of the sovereign self, the silence that followed, and the power that filled the silence. And among them, in whatever language exists at that frequency, there was a recognition, not surprise, recognition, as though they had been waiting for this exact moment from this exact soul and had finally, after a very long watch, seen it arrive. That witnessing matters because in the spiritual legal framework of your destiny, witnessed acts carry binding weight. What they saw, they recorded. What they recorded, they are now required to honor. When the divine witnesses record an act of this magnitude from a soul at your frequency, what follows is not a reward in the conventional sense. It is not a blessing dropped from above like a gift. What follows is an activation, a decree issued from the highest level of spiritual authority that removes the final seals from a soul's true identity and releases into that soul's lived experience the full weight of who they were always meant to be. That decree was issued over you. It didn't come with fanfare. It didn't arrive as a vision or a voice or a sign in the sky. It came as a shift, subtle at first, the way the tide turns before anyone on the shore notices the water moving differently. Something in you changed in the aftermath of that moment of composure. You may have felt it as a quietness that didn't go away, a steadiness that wasn't there before in quite the same way, a sense that you had crossed an internal threshold and the person on the other side of it was recognizably you but operating from a depth that felt new and ancient at the same time. That feeling was real. It was the decree landing in your nervous system, in your energetic body, in the cellular memory that carries the blueprint of your soul's highest design. The universe doesn't activate identities through ceremonies or announcements. It activates them through internal reorganization, through the quiet but total reorientation of a soul around its true center. You are currently inside that reorientation. The decree has been issued. The seals have been broken. And what is being released into your experience now is not a new version of you. It is the original version, the one that existed before the world got to you, the one that was always going to arrive here, at this moment, in exactly this way. Now I need to tell you what you actually are, because you have been operating for too long with an identity that was handed to you by people who could not see you clearly, and circumstances that were designed to diminish you. What you are is not a product of this lifetime alone. What you are is a celestial warrior, and I want you to understand what that means before your mind tries to reduce it to mythology or metaphor. A celestial warrior is not someone who fights with weapons or dominates through force. A celestial warrior is a soul that was forged in the highest frequencies of divine intention, sent into the densest, most challenging conditions of physical existence, and trusted with a mission that requires the rarest combination of qualities the cosmos ever assembles in a single being: strength without cruelty, power without ego, discernment without coldness, compassion without collapse. You are ancient. Your soul did not originate in this era. It carries memories encoded long before this civilization existed. Memories of what it means to hold the line when everything around you is falling, to maintain frequency when every external condition is designed to lower it, to stay sovereign when the entire architecture of a situation is built to make you surrender your dignity. You have been here before in different forms. You have worn different faces and spoken different languages and navigated different versions of the same fundamental test. And in this lifetime, in this body, in this particular chapter of the cosmos's unfolding story, you were sent back with one final upgrade, the full integration of every lesson your soul has ever learned across every lifetime it has ever lived. That is why your composure felt so complete. That is why it came from somewhere deeper than strategy. It came from everything you have ever been. With identity comes mission, and yours is not abstract. It is not a vague calling toward being a good person or living with intention. It is specific, it is urgent, and it is already in motion, whether you have named it yet or not. Your mission is to anchor. In a world that is accelerating toward fragmentation, where reactivity is normalized, where emotional chaos is mistaken for passion, where the loudest voice is treated as the most powerful, you exist as a living counterforce. Your purpose is to demonstrate through the texture of your daily life that there is another way to be powerful. That composure is not passivity. That silence can be a weapon of the highest order. That integrity exercised in private, with no audience and no applause, restructures the spiritual foundation of the environments you move through. Every room you enter carries a frequency when you leave it that it did not have before you arrived. Every person who witnesses your calm in a moment of pressure receives a transmission, not through your words, not through your advice, but through the living evidence of what is possible when a soul refuses to be cheapened by provocation. You are assigned to the anchoring of integrity in spaces that have forgotten what it looks like. You are assigned to the demonstration of emotional sovereignty in generations that were never shown it. You are assigned to hold the frequency of composure so consistently and so completely that the people around you begin to unconsciously reorganize their own behavior around the field you carry. This is not a burden. This is the precise function your soul was architected for. And the confirmation of that assignment was delivered in the moment you stayed calm when everyone expected you to break. Because the decree has been issued and your mission is now active, the structure of your material life is undergoing a reorganization that you are going to begin noticing with increasing clarity in the days and weeks ahead. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is the direct consequence of divine support being released into the physical dimension on behalf of a soul whose alignment has been confirmed. The opportunities that begin arriving will feel different from the ones you have encountered before. Not necessarily louder or more dramatic, but more precise. They will fit. They will arrive at the right time in the right form, from the right direction, and there will be a quality of recognition to them, as though a part of you already knew they were coming. The relationships in your life will begin to reorganize themselves around your true frequency. People who were draining your energy will find reasons to create distance, not because of conflict, but because the field you now carry is incompatible with the frequency of manipulation and chaos. And simultaneously, people who match your depth, people of rare integrity, unusual composure, genuine wisdom, will begin moving toward you in ways that feel almost orchestrated. Resources will begin flowing toward your mission, not always in the form you expect, not always through the channels you planned, but with a consistency that will make it impossible to deny that something has shifted in the underlying structure of your reality. The universe does not abandon the souls it has activated and assigned. It equips them. It clears the path. It removes what is no longer compatible with the mission and draws in everything that is. What is beginning to align in your life right now is not separate from what happened in that moment of composure. It is the direct material consequence of a spiritual event that has already occurred here, is something that will surprise you as it unfolds. You are not going to awaken the people around you by trying to awaken them. You are not going to inspire others by performing your transformation, or announcing your elevation, or posting about your journey. The ripple effect that moves through your life from this point forward operates through a completely different mechanism, one that is quieter and far more powerful than anything intentional. It operates through your presence. When you walk into a room now carrying the frequency of an activated mission-aligned soul, when you respond to provocation with composure, when you hold your dignity in situations that are designed to strip it, when you make the invisible moral choice that no one else in the room even knew was available, something happens in the people who witness it. A part of them that has been asleep gets disturbed, not uncomfortably. The way a person sleeping in a dark room is disturbed by someone quietly opening a curtain and letting in the first line of morning light. They don't know why they suddenly feel more awake. They don't know why the conversation they just had with you left them thinking differently. They don't know why they went home after watching you handle that situation and found themselves making a choice they would not have made the day before. But the transmission happened. Your composure became their permission. Your sovereignty gave them a glimpse of their own. Your stillness reminded something ancient inside them that they too were built for more than reaction. This is how chosen souls spread their frequency, not through preaching, not through performance, but through the undeniable evidence of a life being lived at a level that quietly raises the standard for everyone watching. You are already doing this. You have been doing this. Now it will accelerate. You are not alone in this, and you were never meant to be. Across this planet right now, in every continent, in every culture, in cities and in silence, in positions of visibility and in complete obscurity, there are others. Souls who carry the same ancient signature. Souls who have been walking through the same pattern of tests, making the same invisible moral choices, absorbing the same provocations, with the same quiet composure, and wondering in their most private moments why they are built the way they are and what it is all for. There are thousands of them, and they are all, in this precise window of time, crossing the same threshold you just crossed. Their activations are happening in the same cosmic season as yours, not because of coincidence, but because the moment the universe has been preparing for requires a network, not a single individual. The plan was never for one chosen soul to carry the frequency of integrity alone into a world that needs it. The plan was always for a generation of them to activate simultaneously and create a field so stable, so wide, so deeply, anchored in the fabric of daily human life, that the trajectory of consciousness on this planet shifts in a direction it has been trying to reach for centuries. You are a node in that network. Your activation contributes to the activation of others you will never meet, in ways that operate through the quantum field of connected consciousness, rather than through any visible coordination. And as more of them cross their threshold, as more of those ancient souls remember what they are and step into the fullness of their mission, the field they collectively generate becomes strong enough to do what no single soul, no matter how powerful, could accomplish alone. You are part of something that is only now beginning to reveal its full scale. If you have stayed until this moment, I need you to understand that this was not an accident. Your soul was looking for confirmation of something it already knew, and it found its way here because the universe conspires in very practical ways to get its activated souls the information they need at the exact moment they need it. So here is what I am asking you to do, not for me, but as an act of alignment with the mission you just learned, is yours. If this message landed somewhere real inside you, if something in these words resonated below the level of the mind and touched something older and deeper, then comment the number 777 below right now. That number carries a frequency of divine confirmation in the traditions of sacred numerology, and the act of placing it in this space is a declaration to the universe that you received the transmission. Subscribe, because what is coming next in this series goes deeper into the specific strategies of the soul's composure, into the advanced tests ahead, into the tools that celestial warriors use to maintain frequency when the opposition escalates. Share this with one person whose composure you have always admired without being able to explain why, because they may be part of the same network, and this message may be the signal they have been waiting for. And if you stepped away at any point during this, go back and watch it from the beginning, because the message was layered intentionally, and what you missed the first time was placed there specifically for the second. Your story is not over. It is not even close to over. What just happened to you was not the conclusion of something. It was the opening line of the most important chapter your soul has ever been given the chance to write.